Welcome to the Procuresmarter podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sharron Koch. With over 20 years of experience in hospitality purchasing and consulting, and a PhD in procurement ethics, I'm on a mission to help you procure smarter. Procuresmart is a cloud-based boutique purchasing agency. Our team has experience in projects of all sizes, including conversions, renovations, and new construction. We offer dynamic customer service and competitive pricing. Reach out to us today to learn more about how Procuresmart can purchase for your next project. Today, we are going to be speaking to Mitchell Gold, founder of the Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams Furniture Company. If you know furniture or hospitality, then you know Mitchell Gold. Mitchell is semi-retired from the company, and while he remains chairman emeritus and member of the board of directors, he is concentrating on new adventures with his husband, Tim Gold. I am very much looking forward to getting to know him. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, I have already done a pre-intro for you. I didn't think you wanted to sit through that, but before I release this, I'll send you a copy so that you can hear the pre-intro.
Oh, okay. So I can't hear it now, so it kind of gets me in the mood.
Well, it really was just talking about you recently retired, that you're the founder of the company. And if you do not know Mitchell Gold, I don't know where you've been in the world, because I think everybody in hospitality knows Mitchell Gold, Bob Williams Furniture.
Well, that sounds perfect to me.
All right. So it's let me move this so I'm not looking off screen here. There we go. All right. I want to make sure. All right. Okay. Now, it's my understanding that today there are 25, maybe more Mitchell Gold, Bob Williams signature stores. There's an e-commerce division, a hospitality division, and you also do private labels for Pottery Barn, Williams-Sonoma, and Restoration Hardware. So we are not talking a small furniture company.
Well, that's almost 100% correct. But
why don't you introduce me to the company?
Okay. Well, we do not do private label anymore for Pottery Barn and Williams-Sonoma. We continue to do it for Restoration Hardware, for RH. We've really cut that business back because we've really we're focused on our retail stores and our hospitality business. We do have, I think, 25 stores, 20 could be 28, because I'm semi-retired. I don't pay attention to the numbers as much as I used to, and I know that we've opened some new stores, and I know where they are, but I just can't remember the exact count. And that's one of the beauties of being somewhat mostly retired from the business, is that I don't have to know everything anymore.
Right. Let's talk about your journey. I would love to hear how you and Bob started this company. Why did you start this company? Did you see a need out there that wasn't being met?
I think most entrepreneurs start a business because they see a need that isn't being met, and they feel they have a better idea. And that was one big thing for us. So, and part of it was I had worked for a big furniture company down south in North Carolina and Virginia. I really didn't like the way they treated their employees. And worse, I didn't like the way they treated customers. They really didn't care about on-time delivery. Their profits were more important. And then it was the late 80s at that point, and Bob and I were together as a couple. And when we would have company functions with senior management, I took Bob to one, and then after that, I was asked not to bring him any longer because the CEO's wife wasn't comfortable with it.
Wow.
With that kind of thing. I remember him saying that, with that kind of thing. And it was so insulting. Wow. And I had to be careful at the time of being out of my relationship. So all of that led to, I didn't want to be in that environment anymore. I was about my late 30s, and I felt that there was really an opportunity to open a new kind of furniture business. And what we focused on was upholstered dining chairs. It was a category at the time that was only in the high end. When I was at this company, we had a small portion of doing that kind of product. I had tested it in several stores. It did extremely well. And the whole idea for Bob and I to do something that was comfortable really resonated with us. I mean, honestly, we didn't have like this huge business plan, and I couldn't put it into words or writing. But we liked the idea of these upholstered chairs. In fact, part of it was we had moved into a house in Hickory. Bob was a graphic artist by training. He worked for 17 magazine. He left his job to come down to be with me in North Carolina. And we bought a beautiful house. And I had said to him, because I had seen his apartment in New York, and I said, well, why don't you just decorate it? We have all these divisions of the company I work for. We get a good price on it. Just put together what you like. And in the dining room, he did upholstered chairs with this beautiful floral fabric on it, with this metal base, vintage kind of metal base table with a glass top, a big octagonal. And then he created a lighting chandelier out of chicken wire with Christmas lights in it. And it was dazzling. And in fact, while I was at this company, Dorothy Callens, who was the editor-in-chief of Metropolitan Home Magazine, was coming with her editorial staff to Hickory to visit various companies. And although I wasn't really advertising with her at the time, but we were old friends. When Metropolitan Home started, I was at Bloomingdale's as a buyer, and I was one of the first people to advertise with her. So I think people always remember that. So when they came to dinner and they were sitting in the dining room, she just looked at me and said, "This is one of the most fabulous dining rooms I've ever been in. It's so comfortable. It's so fun looking." And I said, "Yeah, I got my boyfriend really gets design." So when we decided to start a business, it was really made a lot of sense for us to do upholstered chairs because it was a very small market at the time, and we thought it could be a very big market. It also coincided with the time that in 1989, when we started, there was a big crime wave throughout America. People were staying home more. Faith Popcorn had written a book about cocooning and people staying more at home. And we talked about that a lot, like how can we make a house more comfortable so people would enjoy being there and entertaining more? And I always remember growing up, we had these uncomfortable dining chairs. And my mother loved to entertain. But by the time we finished the appetizer, salad, and main course, dessert was always in the other room, eating off your lap with a plate and spilling things in coffee. And I always wished that we could sit at the dining table longer, even when I was 12 years old. So we thought it would really make a lot of sense to do upholstered dining chairs so people could sit at their table longer and more comfortably. So that was the beginning of saying that's where we're going to start our business.
Isn't that interesting that back in 89, the precipice is people were staying home, and now here we are in 2022 and everybody's at home?
Yeah. Comfort is paramount.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things you said, let's talk about the Starbucks journey. Right. How did Starbucks come into that?
So we had, so we started our business. I'm very proud to say we started off big. Before we even really started manufacturing, we had sold 5,000 dining chairs and 800 dining tables. I had a couple of big customers that I went to. So we were able to really get our business moving quickly. And within a couple of years, we started advertising. So we started building a brand name. And as it evolved, as our products evolved, and we were giving incredibly good service, which was the cornerstone of our business. We wanted to be design leaders for how people were living, but we also wanted to make incredibly good quality, consistently on time. And that got us a real reputation with a lot of larger retailers. So we then were doing business with Pottery Barn, with RH, Crate and Barrel, a lot of these specialty stores that were just starting to really be on the scene with 2 stores, 5 stores that eventually grew to be, hundreds of stores. And I was in Seattle selling to one of our good customers there. And I asked the concierge at the hotel, where to get a good cup of coffee. And he said, oh, there's this place, Starbucks, because I was staying pretty close to the wharf. He said, oh, there's this place called Starbucks. Everybody, it's the talk of the town. And I went there and there was a line of people out the door. So as I was standing in line, I got into a conversation with a guy in front of me. I'm always networking, I guess. I'm always interested in, what's going on around me. And I said, what is going on here? And he said, oh, this is Starbucks. They have 50 stores now. And it's this great coffee and blah, blah, blah. And I just looked at the place and I thought, they had chairs there, but they were wooden, little wooden chairs. And I just thought 50 stores, if I could sell them 2 leather comfortable chairs for each store, it would make the store look more inviting and people would really like it. And the leather chairs that we were selling were these new leather that looked vintage. And as these chairs got older and broken in, they even looked better. So as this was something that got better with age, a piece of furniture, not lesser with age. So I got my cup of coffee and it was really good. And I called the headquarters because the fellow had said it was headquartered in Seattle. I called the headquarters and I said, who's the CEO? Howard Schultz. I said, well, can I speak with him? Connect me to his office. Hi, this is Mitchell Gold. I'd like to come in and see Mr. Schultz if I can. I'm in the furniture business. And I think I have something that really would be great for his stores as he's expanding. Put me on hold for a second, get back on, say, yes, can you come in today around 3:00?
That is crazy.
And I was like, okay. Now, I started out by asking if I could come in today because I was traveling.
Right.
And I get into his office and I start talking and, making my little pitch. And he's super receptive. And he said, I'm so glad that you called. I'm so glad that Steve, told you to call me. And I said, Steve who? He said, Steve Gordon, who's the founder of Restoration Hardware. And I just looked puzzled. He said, didn't Steve tell you that I was in his store and we were walking around and I said to him, I want to put leather chairs in our stores because it makes it look so comfortable and look so inviting and they're so great looking. And I said, no, he didn't yet. Because it was just like 3 days before that he had seen Steve. So it was just this very serendipitous thing. And then he invited me to lunch and the rest is history. Millions and millions of dollars and chairs later and other pieces.
An amazing story. Such a good story.
Well, we started kind of a similar way in the hospitality business, which was a tad before Starbucks. Starwood had hired Ave Bradley and Teresa Fatima from Pottery Barn in Williams-Sonoma to make their hotels more residential-like. And they immediately called us to get involved with them. So I went up to White Plains and I was very excited because this is a huge hotel chain and I read up a little bit and this fellow, Barry Sternlicht, big deal. And I was in talking to them and they said, oh, Barry's going to come by in a little while. He wants to meet you. Comes by, we had this incredibly great meeting. And he said, yeah, we really want to make our stores, our hotels have a warmer, more residential feel. And I said, well, you've come to the right place. So that's how we got into the hospitality business.
That is great. Okay, something when I found out you had agreed to do this interview, one of the things I had wanted to ask you was about craftsmanship. And I had been talking to podcasters recently about, all the hoteliers are like, bring manufacturing back to the US, bring it back from Vietnam, bring it back from China. The shipping is too expensive. And my question was, do we still have skilled tradesmen? Can we do that? Is that feasible for us? And as somebody who manufactures in the US, what's your take on that? How does our skilled labor look?
It's not as much as we'd like, but it's great. And one of the important things that we figured out early on is we wanted to be the employer of choice in the area. Because a lot of furniture factories, like I'd mentioned, the one I'd worked for, they had a crappy cafeteria, they had crappy coffee machines that they charged, a quarter or 30 cents for like this little cup of, weak coffee. They really didn't have benefits to speak of, healthcare benefits. And Bob and I, just as human beings, I mean, the first year that we were in this factory that we had purchased, it was hot as could be. And I went out in the summer and said to the plant manager, turn the air conditioning on. It's so hot in here. He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, there's no factories that are air conditioned. No furniture factories air conditioned. And I found out none were. So being a little business naive, we didn't realize we could go out and borrow money to air condition the factory. So we saved our money, we squirreled it away. And by next spring, we put air conditioning in. We also, in looking at the factory, it had very poor lighting, as most factories did. And we just felt that lighting, if it's good lighting, it allows you to see what you're doing. It just makes you feel better. If you go into a dim place, you feel dim. Right. So we changed the lighting, made sure the place was clean. And within months, all the best employees from the other factories started applying to work for us. So fast forward, we've gone through periods of time when we've had to hire 50 people at a time, 90 people at a time. We've been able to get the best people in the area. So while some companies will complain about not getting skilled people, I can tell you that if you treat people right, you can get the best people. So now, fast forward to today, there is a problem of getting more skilled labor because every generation, well, there's two things. One is every generation wants their next generation to do better than they did. So a lot of people who are upholsterers don't necessarily want their children to do that. They want them to go to college. And the other problem is the immigration policies have been very restrictive, and people who would normally come to the country and do entry-level jobs and learn skills and be happy to do those things, there's a shorter supply of that. So in order to, and the other third confluence of events that's happening now is there is a push for people to understand that not everybody's going to go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college. In fact, I saw Carl Bernstein's interview, the great journalist. He flunked out of college, but so college isn't for everybody. And in North Carolina, the community colleges have really become higher quality trade schools that are giving kids a really great education in the business world, but also how to be an upholsterer, how to be a great sewer, how to be a plant manager. So we've partnered with Catawba Valley Community College, and we get employees that way. We get a lot of referrals. So we've been able to keep up with the demand for employees pretty much. We'd like to have more, but there are skilled people, and we still manufacture all of our upholstery in America. The case goods are a different problem because of machinery and different equipment things. Right. But upholstery, we've been able to manufacture here, and we buy from a good amount of mills that still manufacture their fabrics here.
Right. And do you think more case goods will come stateside? Do you think that is the realistic expectation?
I really don't know the answer to that. I really don't know. We are buying more and more from local places. It's just a funny thing that on the dead end street that I live on, that's off of a dead end street on the lake, there's 5 houses, and one of the homes is owned by a man who has a metal fabricating business that makes a lot of tables for us. Mm-hmm. So we were able to find a manufacturer just by talking to my neighbors.
Why?
So it's coming back. I think there's more potential for it.
Right. I think, and this is just my opinion, I think when we start letting our next generation understand that these are honorable professions, that these are professions to be proud of, that these are real skilled artists, people will come back to it. For the longest time, I know when I was in high school, and that was a very long time ago, people are like, oh, don't take shop class, don't take home ec class. Yeah. Those kids aren't going anywhere. But then you look back and you're like, that's a kind of, we lost that art for a generation, and now we need to kind of bring it back.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the other things Carl Bernstein said is he took typing, and that's what gave him the opportunity to work for a newspaper early on, and I took typing too. I think I was one of two guys in the typing class, but it has really helped me enormously. But one of the things that I love about having a successor, having Allison O'Connor come in to take over the business, is she looked at it with fresh eyes, and she really said, wow, these are artisans that work here. And now all of our marketing materials, our advertising, our e-blasts talk about we're the artisans of comfort. We have artisans working in the factory. And she's really made our employees, who I hope I've always made feel good over the years, but she's even taken that an extra level. She's taken that to a new place. And I can see as I walk around the factory with her, they really, really respond to her.
So let's talk about that. I guess in July of 2019, you semi-retired.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to retire?
Well, about 9 months before that, I had turned 67 and we'd been running the business for 30 years. And I was getting tired, a little burnt out. I was also recognizing that the business was changing. And in order to take our business to the next level, to keep it, not just to keep it going in the exciting way that we had built it over the years, but to really take it to a new place that could keep our employees employed, that could satisfy consumers of the future. Because one of the things I've always loved over the years is meeting customers who say to me, oh, I bought your Gloria soap and I just love it. And, the husband is like, oh my gosh, I love this sectional we bought. I'm so glad my wife dragged me into your store. Or different things like that. Now I want to keep that going. And in order to do that, and I will also say I have a heart condition that I've had for 16 years now, but it's not to be dismissed. Although I think my father did too, and he lived to 90, as did my mother. So everybody's saying I've got a real good shot.
Right, you've got good genes.
At many more years. But it just felt like I wanted somebody else to come in and make the decisions. I was tired of being in the corner office where everybody came for final decisions, all kinds of questions. And I always had to, even when I hired senior level people or promoted senior level people, there was always this, you got to go see Mitchell, either to talk about what the final decision is, not necessarily to get his approval, but to get his buy-in. And I was just getting tired and saw that we needed someone new. And the other thing is our business has very much changed. We are a retailer that has a manufacturing business. We have a business in hospitality where we have design leadership in both retail and in hospitality. We need that to be carried on. We need fresh eyes to be looking at some of this. So I talked to my board and said, I think the time has come where I want to hire a CEO to replace me. And we had a COO who wasn't working out. And I said to them, I really need to replace this person, but not with a COO who would report to me, but with a CEO meaning they would run the business day to day. So we went to I vetted 5 different search firms, found a search firm that I was really comfortable with and the board was comfortable with. And the one thing I said to them was, we want a person with a proven track record in retail. The manufacturing business was really well run. You've been there. It runs like a really smooth machine.
Yeah.
We've got the right DNA in that factory. It's in the genes of that factory, consistently good quality, consistently on time. But in our retail business, it's ever expanding. People love our stores. We need to open more of them. Our e-com business really needs to develop. And it's a different way of marketing than I had been doing over the years. And it's not that I couldn't learn it or didn't know it. It's just different. And I was like, I want somebody, I don't want to be experimenting in that. I wanted somebody who'd already done that, who's already made the mistakes and the successes and could build on that. So I said to the search firm, the search firms have a pattern. 90 days, you hire somebody. First 30 days, they develop a list of names. Second, and then you vet them. The next 30 days, you zone in on 10, 12, 18 candidates. And then the last 30 days, you've got 2 or 3 candidates and you make somebody an offer. And I said, that's great. Nothing would please me more, but I would be much happier if you understood from the get-go, this could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, it could be 3 years. We are not going to agree unless we find the right person.
Right.
And they didn't like that because that's not the way they work. And it would be more time consuming for them for their fee, but they agreed to it. And one of the exciting things for me over the years is they agreed to it because they wanted to do business with us. It would be as she said, the senior person said to me, Mitch, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a feather in our cap to be able to say we've done work for you guys.
Okay, so you were succeeded by Allison O'Connor. So why did you choose her? What ultimately made her rise to the top?
So she was actually one of the first people that we interviewed. But she was working for Sheridan in Australia, and she had decided that she wanted to come back to America, had family here. Her daughter was growing up and didn't want to live there any longer. So it was one of the first interviews, and she did it. We did it on Skype, and none of us at this time, now 3 years ago, were really used to doing it. And it just wasn't a great way to interview at the time. So we passed on her at that point. And we then interviewed lots of other people. We found somebody that we really thought was right. And in vetting the resume, found out that she really did not have proven track record in e-com and websites and digital marketing and things like that. So we came back to the drawing board, and Bob Williams, in his inimitable way, said, let's talk to that chick again from Australia. And one of the things about Allison is she had been a senior merchant at Williams Sonoma, so she knew us. So we knew her a little bit from that and liked her from that. But again, the interview was just difficult. So we said, it's really, let's not do it on Skype. Let's invest in having her come over. Let's meet her in Los Angeles. That's an easier flight from Australia. We have 3 stores there. We'll go visit the stores and so on. And she came over, and because the thing that she had said to Bob and I each individually is, we said, well, what do you like to do on Saturday afternoon? She said, I like to go into the stores. She said, I'm a shopkeeper. I like to be in the stores. I'm a shopkeeper. I like to talk to customers. I like to hear the salespeople, what they say. I like to talk to the salespeople. And that really resonated with us because at the end of the day, in this battle for consumer money, you have to be on the front line and know what your people are saying. Mm-hmm. You have to know what they're saying. You have to know what the consumer is saying. And if you're willing to get on the front line and get in the weeds and do that, I think that builds a lot of success. That certainly has been our success over the years. So we spent a couple of days with Allison, and we all felt that we really had a great synergy together, could work together, and had confidence that she could take us to a new place.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. Now I want to dig a little bit into your next adventure, which you have a husband named Tim Gold, and Tim has the Tim Gold dog training, right?
Right.
And you help with that?
Yes.
So tell me, okay, now I don't want to dig too deeply, but you and Bob parted ways and you met Tim.
Right.
And happily married. And so now you have this new adventure that you're doing. So tell me about that.
So Tim, so years ago, well now 7 years ago, we got a Doberman because Tim wanted to have a dog. He had never had one. It was part being a service dog. He has a little anxiety problem and some panic attacks, to which he says, well, if you were married to Mitchell, you would have anxiety problems too. But anyway, he decided rather than taking medication for that the doctor had suggested maybe getting a service dog. So we get this dog, get it professionally trained. Tim is a voracious reader. He reads 4 to 6 books a week. He's always reading, always learning. And then he really focused on training Zola, and she is impeccably trained. Problem with having a Doberman is sometimes people don't want their dogs to play with a Doberman in a dog park, or they're afraid when they see a Doberman. She's the sweetest thing in the world. So somebody said, you should go to the Humane Society because Mitchell and Bob are big contributors. I'm sure they'll let you play with the dogs there because they have a big play area. Tim took the dog there, and the executive director saw the way he handled dogs and said, gosh, could you take this little dog home that has a broken leg and get her back to health? Well, he did that, but he also trained her. Dog got adopted in a blink. She said, well, can you take a couple more? At one time, we had over 20 dogs here that we were fostering. We have a whole facility for it. So then when I retired, Tim had wanted to start his own dog training business because people in town were like, oh, could Tim train my dog? It was a friend, so I'm sure we're doing it. Yeah. And it was a friend of a friend. And we're like, no, we're going to get paid for this. And he's got this incredible touch, and he's developed his own techniques. So we have a dog training business where, actually this week, as I talk to you, he's in Washington for the week. He goes to see a trainer up there. He has a back problem, a very special trainer, but he also takes a dog with him who needs to be socialized and well-trained to be around people, cars, noises. So he takes a dog, we get paid for that. And he also has some we have clients that are up there. So he's working up in DC 1 week out of the month. And then we have dogs here that come for a time here. We do individual lessons, and he does virtual training throughout the whole country. And which we started before COVID, but then when COVID hit, it was like the perfect thing.
Yes.
So we have clients in the Hamptons. We have one in Southern California, in Orange County, Beverly Hills, Montreal, the Washington area. So the cutest thing he said to me though one day, because he's really working hard, he said, I think I figured this out. You're going to do for me what you did for Bob Williams. Bob was this really great hidden talent, didn't even know that he could be a furniture designer, but I saw it in him. He was a graphic designer, but he had this great furniture taste. And Bob's very much like Tim. He's a self-learner. He'll study things. And he became what I think is one of the greatest designers in the furniture industry. And then when we changed the name, when we were at 16 years in the company, because the brand really didn't feel right, only being known as Mitchell Gold, because Bob and I were partners, 50-50 partners, and he was making this huge contribution, and he should be on the nameplate. So Tim said to me, I see, so you're going to exploit my talents and build the business out of it. And so it's really fun building a marketing site for him and doing the marketing and doing the sales. I talk with all customers when it's an initial call, and I love selling.
That's amazing. And you foster a lot of dogs, right? Are you like, did I read something like hundreds of dogs you fostered?
We have fostered over 400 dogs, but now we're more focused on the dog training part of the business. And we foster occasionally if they really have a problem. And we're the official trainer for the Catawba Valley Humane Society.
Wow.
So as they're adopting dogs out, one of the problems the Humane Society has is people adopt a dog, 30 days later, they come running back and go, I can't control this dog. Go see this trainer over here. And that was part of the success, that when we were fostering, Tim was training the dogs starting at 6 weeks old. I mean, we had a couple of litters. We had this one litter with, I think it was 9 puppies, either 7 or 9 puppies that we delivered here. And Tim literally started training them as soon as they opened their eyes. And by the time they were 6 weeks old, he was really training them. It's on our website. You can see the pictures. It's so cute.
That's amazing.
And so now when people get a well-trained dog, they tend to keep the dogs and not bring them back.
That's amazing. All right. Well, I have one more area I'd like to touch on. And I did ask your permission beforehand, but it is no secret that you are very active in the LGBTQ community. And in particular, you serve on the True Faith Doesn't Bully Committee. Is that true?
I just retired from it because I'm going to do something. Could you
tell me about it? Yeah. And tell me why you think this is important to be involved.
Well, growing up gay in the 60s was very, very difficult. At the time, it was considered a mental disorder. Right. And when you're 11 years old and realize you have a crush on Richard Chamberlain and not the nurse and Dr. Kildare, it was hard.
Right.
And having to be closeted during those formative teenage years until I was 24 is really hard, living with a lie, living with a secret. And it really impacts people emotionally. And moving down south and being more in communities and seeing people, Bob and I, maybe it was naive, but we just were a couple and we were just comfortable being out and about. And it became known that these two gay guys are running this super successful factory in Taylorsville, North Carolina. But then young people started reaching out to us and telling us how it saved their life, that to see that they could be gay and successful, they could be gay and have a future.
And in business, you could be gay and be in business.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't relegated to certain things. You
right. It wasn't arts. Yeah. Right. That's what I'm kind of getting at. It wasn't something to be like hidden in the back room of an artsy design. You could be at the boardroom table and be a gay person.
Right. So now what I've discovered is, as a business person, if we have a store that isn't doing well, let's just say in Washington, I would go to the store and talk to the salespeople. I would talk to customers. I would look at the advertising. I would look to find out what is the root reason why business isn't good in a particular store. If in our hospitality business, we weren't getting any orders, I would go talk to our customers and find out why they weren't buying from us. And the same thing is true now in LGBT equality, not just legal, but spiritual equality, as it was in the 60s. In the 60s, it was considered a mental disorder. So that was an excuse to have laws against gay people.
Right.
Now, there's too many people that believe homosexuality is a sin, quote unquote, that's the thing that gives people the thing to say, well, they're morally wrong. We don't have to bake a cake for them. We shouldn't have to serve them in a restaurant. If they have a wedding, we shouldn't have to have the wedding in our venue, even though our venue is a public business with public roads that bring clients to the venue and so on. So my big kick is getting homosexuality off the sin list, quote unquote. And we've started a website called LGBTQ notasin.com. And there's a letter that I, with a group of people, of clergy who have changed their position, of evangelical mother who's changed her position, have put together, that at some point in the future, we're going to deliver to religious leaders who have the opportunity and authority to make change, literally to the Pope, to the head of the Southern Baptist Convention, and so on. And this letter outlines why homosexuality is not a sin, and worse, how harmful it is. When you tell a 13-year-old kid that they're a sinner for the way he or she is born, it's devastating. It is the reason why kids hang themselves, why they jump off of bridges, why they suffer immense mental anguish. And we want to take that sorrow and turn it into happiness. Because I will tell you that once I came out and started to accept myself, once I realized I was able to be married and to be intimate with someone, not just sexually, but personally, emotionally, it changed my life. And I look back on my life sometimes and I'm just like so unbelievably happy and appreciative. Whenever something goes wrong, I think back to how appreciative I am to have the life I've had and to have a business with a business partner that's just been an exhilarating experience. So I want more people to be happy. And I know this also, this is the other thing I'll end on for this. It will make parents happier because they don't have to disown their kids. And clergy will take the burden off of their shoulders of having to tell somebody that they're a sinner and broken, because the clergy that I know that have changed, they've seen the happiness that they bring to people. This one particular professor told, not professor, but well, he is a professor at a school in Atlanta, but he's a evangelical pastor. He said, I didn't realize how much harm I was causing or how much good I could do.
Yeah. Mitchell, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing your life with me. I am truly grateful that you gave me this time.
No, thank you so much. It was really great to see you again. And my niece, one of my favorites, lives in Greenville, so I will make sure to see you when we get out of this COVID mess.
Yes, please do. I would love to have you for drinks one night. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
You have us for drinks, we'll take you to dinner.
Okay. All
Thanks.
right. Thank
Okay,
you
take care.
so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.